feel like I'm not even ready to discuss this movie because I have to keep a normal level of excitement here, okay? Obviously, we're talking about Weapons today, which is the newest movie from Zach Cregger, who of course did Barbarian. I got my Barbarian bottle over here, very cute, and I have the poster framed up there as well. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Barbarian, so needless to say, I was very much anticipating Weapons, and I really tried not to get my hopes up a little too high because, I mean, it's impossible. But I was excited, okay? And I cannot wait to talk about it, get into it, likes, dislikes, and spoilers in this video. I'm just so excited to get into it. Now, this movie, based on its genius marketing, was expected to be one of the most scary or unsettling movies of the entire year. But you know what is even more unsettling is needing care and not being able to get it quickly. Finding care when you need it is, of course, super important, but what's even more important is finding a healthcare provider that is understanding of your needs. I mean, this is your health that we're talking about. I'm at the stage of my life where we are thinking about expanding our family, and given that my last pregnancy was high risk, I recently went to see my doctor because I have concerns if I were to get pregnant again. My doctor is super understanding and helpful with what I can do to prepare for the next one should we decide that we're ready. But getting to that point, finding a doctor who actually listens and understands can be really hard, which is why I love that today's video is sponsored by ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free website where you can compare high quality doctors who are in your network or take your insurance. You can find the right ones for your needs and instantly book an appointment right on the website so you're not calling a bunch of different departments trying to figure out where to make an appointment. From mental health to dental health, from eye care to skincare, ZocDoc has over 100,000 healthcare providers across nearly every specialty. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, who are located close by, or who come highly rated and recommended by others, and just for the doctor who is the best fit for you. You can see their actual open appointment times and book an appointment that works best for you right on ZocDoc. Whether you need a female doctor, an LGBTQ friendly therapist, or a specialist tailored to your needs, ZocDoc makes searching really easy so you can find the provider right for you. Plus, the cool part is ZocDoc appointments happen fast, usually within 24 to 72 hours of booking, and sometimes you can even get same day appointments. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments. It's 2025 and we take our health very seriously. So make sure to go to ZocDoc.com/horror. It's also linked in the description down below, and you can instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Thank you again to ZocDoc for sponsoring. Now let's get back to the video. So Weapons is very different, I would say, from Barbarian. You can definitely tell they're made by the same creator because of certain elements, which we'll talk about. Weapons is described as a multi-story psychological horror epic with a more intricate narrative structure than Barbarian and exploring connections between various characters within a layered story. Okay, so it is a little bit more complex. There's more going on, and we spend a little bit more time with each character individually. I will say it's similar to Barbarian in that there are chapters, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it's just more on every front, and I'm going to say better than Barbarian. When all but one child from the same class mysteriously vanish on the same night at exactly the same time, a community is left questioning who or what is behind their disappearance. Let's just jump into things I liked because I just need to gush about this movie for a minute. In case you couldn't tell, I loved this movie. I loved Weapons. This movie makes me want to scream from the rooftops. I love movies, okay? I had a moment where I was just thinking, like, this is pure cinema. Like, this is why I love movies so much. So the first thing I loved about this is that it is shot multi-POV style, which is one of my favorite methods of storytelling. And if I ever wrote a book, which I keep talking about, let's see if I do that one day. That is definitely a style that I would love to attempt to do one day because I love reading that style specifically in books, but also I love when movies do that as well. And Zach Cregger credits Magnolia for that inspiration. I love Magnolia as well. That movie is definitely an epic as well, and I thought he had mentioned that this was going to be like a 3-hour long epic, kind of like Magnolia. So I was surprised it was only a little over 2 hours. But given that, there is a lot of inspiration from Paul Thomas Anderson as well that is very apparent. And I loved the chapters. I loved seeing the different perspectives from everyone in that movie. It was just perfect. The way it was done was absolutely perfect. The storytelling was amazing. Now, I want to say this movie is honestly a dark comedy. in the best way. I am not one to enjoy humor in my horror movies, but that's because a lot of horror movies tend to add like a comedy relief character, cheesy humor, sometimes even slapstick, just like corny jokes. This was not like that. The comedy comes from the absolutely realistic reactions that these characters have that are traditionally not typically in horror movies. He is very talented at mixing the two of horror and comedy without stripping away the tension of the horror in the scenes, even if there is comedy involved. It's really a weird, unique experience to watch a Zach Cregger movie because you go from laughing to dread to being terrified to laughing again, and it's just such a roller coaster in the most entertaining and fun way. And the moments are funny because they are things that we would do in real life, and so it's relatable and believable as reactions, and we never get to see that in horror movies. We don't get to see the actual characters in the movies say what the audience is thinking, and they get to do that in Zach Cregger's movies, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's funny. There are other moments as well that are a little bit over the top in humor, especially towards the end of the movie. Very, very over the top. I don't think it goes too far for my liking because I just love Zach Cregger's sense of humor. I think he's just a comedy genius when it comes to putting it in a horror movie. I think it just works so well. But there are moments where it should be probably a little bit more tense than it is, but it's just straight up, we're just straight up laughing. And that doesn't resonate with everybody. That does not land. And I actually saved some reviews from Rotten Tomatoes that are negative to read later. So we'll do that in a minute. Obviously, the horror, I loved it. I was genuinely scared watching this movie, and that takes a lot for me to be scared. I think Longlegs was probably the last time I was like really genuinely freaked out in the movie theater. So for me to feel fear, just because I've been desensitized a lot and I just feel like I have a very specific kind of horror that really bothers me, and this one had it, and it was terrifying. It's not going to be scary for everybody. Okay, that goes without saying. Everyone is different. Everyone has different things that scared them. Okay, so me saying it was terrifying, I don't need you guys to say it wasn't in the comments. You know what I mean? And I wasn't just unsettled. I was scared. Like I felt fear, and it was still moments where I could not look away. Like some movies I get scared and I want to look away, but this one I was so scared to miss something that I just kept my eyes on the screen even though I was terrified. And just the balance of going from laughing to being scared back to that was so incredible to experience in the theater. I had a very similar experience while I watched The Substance, and I think any movie that really has you go through the whole array of human emotions just means it's a really well executed movie, I think. Some people think you shouldn't feel certain things, or, you know, humor should be out of horror. I don't really know. Some people have different opinions, okay? But I just get this excited feeling when I watch a movie like that where I get to feel everything, and even through sadness and grief and all of that just coming through in the same movie as I'm feeling fear and whatnot. It seems like it could be messy, but that's just, those kind of movies make me feel like I love movies so much. Like this is why I go to the movie theater and what I want to experience every single time. Now, it's not a requirement for me to enjoy a movie that it has to make me feel all of these things. It is a bonus though, and I will say my favorite movie experiences in the theater are those movies that can make me do that. I loved all the camera techniques from this. I think he definitely took some inspiration from Paul Thomas Anderson with the cameras being attached to the doors and whatnot. I thought all of the camera work was actually really good. It stood out to me, which is something I don't really pay that much attention to, if I'm being honest, as a film reviewer. I don't really mind. As long as it looks good, it's like, sure, that's fine. But for it to stand out to me as something really unique, I think, or, you know, it's inspired, but not derivative at all. The characters, okay. The characters were incredible. I loved every single one of them because they felt so believable. Those were real people, okay? They gave everyone a little personality, a little bit of a backstory, especially Julia Garner's character. I loved it. I loved just the story there and how we got to really see these characters play out and how believable they were. On top of that, the casting for this movie was 10 out of 10, which is really ironic because most of the cast had to be replaced with different things like the strikes and scheduling and whatever. There were different people who were supposed to play almost all of these roles, but I am so happy we ended up with the cast that we got for the movie because I wouldn't choose anybody else. They were all perfect in those roles. Julia Garner, okay, this is the third movie I've seen this year with her in it. Okay, we seem to be in the era of Julia Garner. She's definitely doing a lot more horror nowadays as well, which I love. I think she's great in. Josh Brolin, I think, did a fantastic job in his role, and Pedro Pascal, I believe, was supposed to originally play Archer's character. I thought Josh Brolin was great in that role. Benedict Wong as Marcus was fantastic. Amy Madigan, of course, stole the show. And I didn't realize, but Austin Abrams, who played James in the movie, was from Euphoria. I didn't even recognize him in this movie. So just all of it was perfection. The child actor and the character of the child itself was so good, and just all of it was fleshed out. Like, I really have no criticisms at all when it comes to the characters and the casting for it. Let's get into the one thing that I didn't like. And I really don't like saying that because I really don't think it's going to be something that lasts forever with me. I think upon rewatch, it really won't bother me at all. The pacing. Okay, it wasn't super balanced. It was unique pacing, and I have appreciation for it, but I got really nervous in the beginning of this movie. So this movie would like ramp all the way up and then it would calm way down and be slow for a while. And then we'd get so much story and then it would ramp up again. So the pacing was very much like up and down, but the downs were a lot longer than the ups were, you know what I mean? So the reason why I was nervous, because we open with the movie with plot dump, and then we get a lot of the footage of the kids running, and that was in the marketing, and that is what enticed me to want to watch this movie anyway, was that marketing. So I was like, okay, we're seeing all of that. Hated the song choice for watching these kids run out of their houses and seeing that camera footage. I wasn't a huge fan of that. And then the plot dump in the opener, and then we get into Julia Garner's character and we like follow her for a little bit. That was all really slow, and I was like, all right. So I got really nervous that we already saw the kids running, like that seemed to be like the creepiest aspect of the marketing, but then we saw it wasn't that creepy because of the song choice. So I was a little bit taken aback by the opening of this movie. And a lot of the story is very character driven. So we do spend a lot of time with certain people and like, you know, what's going on in their lives and how they're affected by this weird mystery. It all came back together in the end, of course. Okay, he's not an idiot. I had faith, but it did take a while to get there. And so I got nervous, like, what if I don't like this movie? That would be really weird because I expected to like it. And I know I shouldn't necessarily go into that movie thinking that, but how can I not? I was so excited for it. So I think what it actually isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just you wanted to see what would happen next. So they're building so much anticipation, but you're almost impatient trying to get to the next scene because you just want to see what is happening. Like, what is the cause and reason for all of this going on? Because it is so bizarre. It's so strange. There are so many scenes where you're like, what is that? So I think that's why the pacing fell off, because I just wanted it so bad. I wanted the explanation. I wanted the climax, and I almost wanted to rush things to get there because I was just confused and I loved the story. So I wanted more. So I think watching it a second time, I probably wouldn't have that same, not issue with it, but that same, like, you know, issue with the pacing. I feel like the pacing won't feel as slow upon rewatch, and definitely I'm gonna keep rewatching this. I'm trying to figure out a time, even though I should not waste time watching this movie again. It would not be a waste of time, but I'm trying to like see if I can go see it again because I have to. Because let me tell you, this is gonna sound so extreme. This might be one of my favorite movies of this century. Okay, I know that's so, I would put this in my Letterboxd top 4, no question. I would pop it right in there. Obviously I have to sit with it a bit, but oh my god, I'm obsessed with this movie, like everything about it. So before we get into spoilers, I did want to read a couple negative reviews. Not necessarily to shame anyone for feeling differently than me. That is totally fine. I do question people's sense of humor not being the same as Zach Cregger's if you thought we weren't supposed to laugh at it. Because some reviews said like the audience was laughing. That was the point. I just like to read reviews for fun. You know, for me it's fun. I like to do it. I don't know. You can skip forward if you don't like it. Okay. Boring, boring, boring. Not original. Scares predictable. Please tell me a story next time. It was all story. The story was there. I think also some people have issue because it's not fully explained. You are not spoon-fed any information in this movie, okay? It was to me boring and didn't make sense in a lot of places. My husband started falling asleep. Seems like cussing was their main subject. I know a lot of movies do that, but this was extremely way too much. Another boring comment, you know I talked a lot about the pacing being really slow, but I really think it does go extremely high and extremely low. Not extremely low. I feel like every scene had like suspense to it because we know it's all coming back together, especially once we learn the format of the chapters and everything. I feel like we know where it's going. Not like we don't know what the end is going to be, but we know we're going to get a reveal at some point. Not scary at all. Story had potential, but the way it was shot made it boring and repetitive. I actually think it could have gone repetitive, and I disagree. I don't think it was repetitive at all because we got to see it from different perspectives, and they were so different, each perspective, even if we were watching the same scene from two different people's perspectives, you know what I mean? Movie was horrible, was nothing like the previews, was definitely one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I walked out half through the show. I'm guessing you mean halfway through the movie. I'm totally discrediting that review. If you left halfway, then you have no idea. You can't say it was one of the worst movies you've ever seen because you haven't seen it. You didn't watch it. You watched half of it. You watched 1 hour. So you can't say that. Weapons tries to be a mystery, a thriller, and maybe even deep, but mostly it's just 2 hours of nothing happening. By the time it finally does something, you'll wish it hadn't bothered. There have been many people who say nothing happens in this movie. What do you mean? What do you mean nothing happens in this movie? It is not even that slow. Okay, my issue with the pacing, it's not that slow. So I don't understand people saying it's so boring and nothing happens. That's all I got. So let's get into spoilers, shall we? I'm gonna give you guys some time to walk over to your remote or your computer or your phone to pause this video now because I'm gonna get into spoilers, okay? Spoilers are happening. The reason why I'm giving you some time is because last time I jumped right into a spoiler, and I apologize for that. If you watched my I Know What You Did Last Summer review. So here we go. We're getting into spoilers now for Weapons. Okay, if you haven't seen it yet. Okay, where to even begin for this? I didn't even know what to really like write notes on about what I wanted to talk about with spoilers because it's just so much. There's so much. I could make an hour-long video on Weapons. Anyway, the reason for it all, witchcraft. Okay, of course. So Gladys is Alex's aunt who comes to stay with them because she appears to be on her deathbed, but it turns out she actually needs people to survive. I'm predicting she's like some 200-year-old witch who steals the youth from people. I don't really know. We don't actually get an explanation for it. She comes with her little tree, and that tree does magic, and she does blood magic with it to be able to control these children and everyone, right? But that's my theory. That's what I like to think of. She's like hundreds of years old and she needs to survive by like doing this ritual with blood and people. I don't know. I did love the portrayal of witchcraft, but my suspicions of that definitely went up. One, when she appeared. When she was on the screen, I was like, yeah, something's not right with that lady, okay? Like, she's the reason. She's the reason everything's happening. And then when she was at Marcus's house and requested a bowl of water instead of a cup, and she's like, it's just a weird quirk I have. No, it's not. She's about to do a ritual, about to do a spell with that bowl of water, okay? So I thought it was interesting. I liked that. I liked that it explains all of it. You know, you could do a lot when magic is involved, okay? You can explain a lot of things with magic. So I liked that answer. It was satisfying to me. Let me know if you thought that. Now, can we talk about how bleak and sad this story actually is as well. A lot of the deaths were super tragic. I had a really hard time with Marcus killing his husband by like hitting his head, you know. That was really hard for me. The head trauma always does me, you know, does me in. I can't really handle a lot of head trauma, but then it was just tragic that he had to be the one to do it. I feel like his death as well, Marcus's death, was very shocking and like just like so surprising and still sad. Like these people were good people. We're just watching them being killed in this way, and they really hit me for some reason. Like most horror movies, I don't really feel much for the characters, but in this one, because we're getting so much story and so much connection with these people, we feel something when they do actually die on screen. And then at the very end, the little girl narrator says that Alex's parents still need to be fed soup, just by different people, and some of the kids are starting to talk again. And this is a year later after these events, and these people may never recover. And that was unexpected for me, and that really hit me in the gut as well when she said that. Like, that hurt. I was extremely sad when I heard that, because I was thinking, oh, when Gladys dies, you know, hilarious moment, by the way, when she's being chased by 17 children. Loved that scene. That's the one that's a little bit over the top, where we don't have a ton of suspension. It's just pure comedy at that point, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was fun. She's ripped apart by these kids, okay? I thought as soon as that happened, they would all awaken and snap out of it and go back to being themselves, you know? No, they're so traumatized, they're all catatonic for a long time, including Alex's parents, which just, as a parent, it makes me so sad. It's so sad. So on top of this movie being a dark comedy, it's a tragedy. It's a tragic horror movie as well. And in the beginning, the narration says that the children disappeared and never came back. And I thought that was really interesting, because they technically, physically did come back, but they were never the same. They didn't come back to who they were before. So they're all permanently affected by her curse. And so I thought that that point in the beginning was really interesting. Parasites were an interesting theme throughout. I don't have any opinion on that. There was a couple scenes with parasites, and I think it's supposed to correlate to Gladys kind of leeching off and using other people's bodies and controlling them with her magic. Like she's the parasite puppet master, you know, of these people. So there's that theme going on. I feel like it was a little on the nose and doesn't really add anything to the story for me personally, but I just thought I'd talk about that because it could be interesting. I don't know, because we had, Justine was teaching the class about parasites and, you know, talking about tapeworms and things, and then Marcus was watching a nature documentary on cordyceps taking over an ant's body. So I think there's supposed to be some kind of correlation with those things and Gladys. So I wanted to talk about some of the humorous elements and the jokes. So he got jokes, the funny parts and my favorites in it. I loved when Archer awoke from the crazy ass dream and says, "What the fuck?" Like that was so realistic, because usually, okay, also dream sequences, didn't hate it. I usually hate a dream sequence, and there's 2 in this, I believe. Didn't hate those at all. It worked so well for this movie. And I loved it. They didn't even keep the strange stuff for the dreams. It was also in reality. It was the same level of strange. But that scene was really funny. I loved when Justine is running through the convenience store with Marcus chasing her, trying to kill her. And the store manager is like, "Get out of my store." And she's like, "Fucking help me." Hilarious, because it's like, what do you mean get out of your store? Help me. Like, what are you talking about? Any scene with James the Junkie, okay, I thought was hilarious. Just his order of operations of like what his priorities were so funny to me. And yeah, anything with him, his whole story, he was great. He also stole the show, I think, as a character. And they're all so funny because they're so real. They're so real. That's like exactly how you would probably react. And so the audience laughs because it's like, yeah, I would also say that. I would do that too. But underestimated funny moment, my favorite funny scene, I was laughing. No one else in the theater laughed at this part except me, I think, because the other ones were a little bit more obvious. This one was more subtle. The mom Okay, so the kids are running, Gladys is running, they're breaking through all these homes. This mother is holding her daughter and she's like, there's glass everywhere, get her other shoe. Oh my God, there's a man. That scene was so funny because there's so much setup to that. There's glass in the living room, where's her shoe? There's glass that she's like holding her because she doesn't want to step on the glass, obviously. She's telling her husband, get her other shoe. It's just so realistic as a parent. And then obviously Archer is like running through the house too, trying to chase everyone, and he's like stopping in their living room looking around. He's not even a threat to them, but then she doesn't know that. He's just a random man in their house and she's like, oh my God, there's a man. And I loved that. I thought that was so hilarious. And all of these scenes that are funny don't take from the horror. It doesn't take away the tension. You're still like, oh my God, they're running through all these houses. It's just these small moments that are realistic moments that are funny. And it only adds to the movie. It doesn't take away any of the suspense of it. And that is how you do horror comedy, or comedy within a horror movie. Because at the end of the day, this is a straightforward horror, but I like to call it a dark comedy because it is hilarious too. And I love that, but it also scared the shit out of me. So what more could I want? Like, it literally, I could not have asked for anything more from this movie. It just gave me everything. It's, in case you couldn't guess, I gave this 5 out of 5. Obviously, it is my favorite movie of the year. I guarantee nothing will top it. I guarantee that nothing this decade will top it. I think it's my favorite of the decade, period. 2020s, Weapons. And I underestimated this year so much, but Bring Her Back, Together, Weapons. We have just gotten such good movies lately that I am optimistic for the remaining of the year. But Weapons is peak. That's the peak of the year for me. Nothing will top it. I would love to hear your thoughts on Weapons. Let's talk about it in the comments. I'm really gonna get in there because I just love talking about this movie. I love thinking about it. I haven't stopped thinking about it since I watched it. So please leave a comment about it. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will talk to you soon. Bye.